Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be all about the GlossGods First Gal on Jupiter palette. I'm really excited to be trying this palette. I've tried GlossGods in the past and I've loved every single palette that I've tried from them. I have 3 or 4. So in today's video, I'll be doing 3 looks, just testing out the formula, making sure it's the same as the other palettes that I have, inserting in some swatches, and then just talking about my overall thoughts. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around. But with all that, I'm going to scoot you in and we're just gonna get started with look number 1. All right, so let's just take a look at this palette before we get started with the looks. Here's what the outside looks like, and then here is what the inside looks like. And I think instantly everyone was thinking this is a very cool tone palette, but after swatching it, which I'll insert my swatches in now, I do think that while there are some cool tone shimmers, it's definitely more on the neutral cool side. It doesn't lean completely cool, which I do like and appreciate in this palette. Now this does retail for $46 and it has 12 shades, 5 mattes, 7 shimmers. So you are getting a majority of shimmers in this palette. And most of these shimmers are very smooth shimmers when I was swatching them. There's different kind of types, I would say, but mostly traditional shimmers, which is a little different than some other GlossGods palettes that I've tried. The most notable one to me was Orion Octavia, which looked to me to be more of a holographic shimmer. So we'll give that one a try. And then my only complaint just off the bat looking at this is that these 2 mattes are, to me, almost identical. We'll see how they look on the eyes, but even in my swatch, I didn't really see that much of a difference. Maybe a slight difference in undertone, but not that much. And being that this is a shimmer heavy palette and there's only 5 mattes, I appreciate the mattes, but I wish that there's a little bit more variety. Like at this point, you're really only getting 4 mattes in my opinion. I'm excited to try this palette though. So let's just get started. I think that for the first look, I definitely want to try some of these silvers. I don't know. We're gonna just see where this ends up. But I don't know how many shimmers I'll be able to try in this video. I'll definitely be able to try all the mattes. I'm just gonna start with Sputnik Stardust and put that in the crease. I don't know if I'm gonna put that all over my lid. All the makeup I'm wearing is always listed down in the description box below if you're ever curious. But for holiday, GlossGods came out with a set of 4 palettes. So I picked up 2 of them actually. I picked up the First Gal on Jupiter and I picked up the First Gal on Mars. I was gonna do a video on both of them together, like one video. However, they don't really go together too much. The First Gal on Mars, I'll show it at the end, like when I go over my final thoughts, is a special effect palette, so it's just shimmer shades. And I didn't feel like I could really incorporate that into this video. So I decided to do it just on the First Gal on Jupiter. And I don't know, I might do like a short or something with the First Gal on Mars. But the other 2 palettes were definitely a lot more warm tone. There was a blue tone palette. So there was the First Gal on Mars, which I just wasn't interested in. And then there was like a blue all shimmer palette. So I opted not to go for those. And I am gonna switch this up because I want to see the difference between these 2. So I put this one for look number 1, Sputnik Stardust, and I'm gonna do Starry Stride. I'm just gonna put that on my second eye to start look number 2 with a different brush and just see if we can see a difference, because I would do that anyways. And then that way we'll just kind of get the comparison out of the way. I would love to know though if you picked up any of these palettes Have you tried GlossGods before? I picked up their 2022 collection, which was 3 different palettes. I'll have those videos linked down below, and I liked all of them, which is what really pushed me over to purchase these 2 palettes. Okay, I don't have my glasses on, so it's going to be a little bit harder for me to see the difference. There's a little bit of a difference. I did use 2 different brushes. This is a little bit more purpley, and this one's a little bit more, it's lighter. It still has a purple undertone, but I would say more brown taupe. You have to tell me if you can see a difference. I can see a difference, but honestly, I don't think it's enough to justify having both shades in the palette. So, okay, that solves that question. We're gonna go back to look number 1 here. I'm gonna kind of build this up more now that I have both eyes done. I'm gonna use the same brush and go into the darkest matte brown and just kind of build this up in the crease. Now this is very space inspired, and something that when I was looking on their website, that's just a fun fact, they actually have all these famous women astronauts and like facts about them on their website underneath the palettes. I thought that was really cool. And it just had like information on how they've contributed to space exploration and all that stuff. That's not really something that like interests me, but it was like cool to see just not just information about the palette, but information that I didn't necessarily know. But I'm gonna keep the mattes pretty simple here, and GlossGods usually does have some fallout, so I am gonna go with my NYX glitter primer. I'm just not gonna risk it. Maybe for the 3rd look, I'll try it without glitter primer just to see, but it'll be really tough to take off this eye makeup for the 3rd look if I have glitter all over my face. So I'm just gonna lightly do that. And I do think that these shimmers will apply well with a brush. So I'm gonna try that because not all shimmers do. And I think that I want to go in with Eileen's Authority. It's a little bit more of a taupey shimmer. And then I'll use, what is this? Hubble's Hues for the inner corner kind of 3rd. And then that way look 2 will do more of a silver. I'm just gonna tap that. Yeah, if you don't like using your fingers, I personally do. This is a good formula to use a brush with. And GlossGods does not play when it comes to their shimmers. I'm gonna actually go back in, just blend out that outer corner a little bit more. Now going in with Hubble's Hues. This one is a little bit more of that flaky texture. So a little bit tougher with a brush, but I can make it work. And this shade is definitely like a duochrome. It kind of has like a pink undertone with like a blue flip. Kind of just wanted something with a little bit more sparkle. I don't know necessarily if these 2 shimmers go together, but they do now. Really quickly, I'm going to add the same 2 mattes to the lower lash line. Just kind of blend them out and connect it. Just like that. There's look number 1. I'll add liner at the end after we go through look number 2 because I kind of like to think about it for a little bit. But let's just start look number 2. Like I said, I want to, now that I've used this shimmer, kind of want to use these 2 shimmers and see how the silvers are. This shimmer was like a silver smooth shimmer. So I'm a little bit intimidated by it, but we'll give it a shot. I already laid down my crease color, so I think we'll lay down this kind of more gray matte, so that way it ties it all in together. We'll use that kind of in the outer corner. I do like that the GlossGods mattes are very buildable. They don't give you too much pigment off the bat, but they are very buildable. I'm gonna go back in with Starry Stride, which was the crease shade. Just kind of blend that up a little bit, especially in this outer corner. There, that's kind of better. And that's really it for the mattes. I mean, I think that the nice thing sometimes about indie palettes is that they kind of just have the mattes there to add a light background, and the shimmers are really the star. I like things that are easy to do and quick, but they look like they took a lot of time. So I'm just gonna lay down my NYX glitter primer again. And first I'm gonna go in with Stormy Serenade. I'm gonna use my finger this time because, like I said, that's what I prefer. I'm sorry you have to see my nails not polished, but I have to go in for like an operation tomorrow, and I can't have my nails painted. Also can't have piercings, which is why I took most of my earrings out. I just left the ones that are like my tragus that are gonna be a little bit, they close faster, so I didn't necessarily want to take those out right away. It's nothing serious, but I'll talk about it more maybe in like a get ready with me or something like that. So the silver you're seeing is Interstellar Icon, and like I said, that silver does not come to play. I'm gonna try to actually blend it out with the Stormy shade. I think you could do some really cool graphic looks with this. I'm just kind of doing something, you know, pretty simple with just some two mattes, two shimmers, but I could see some really just like interstellar creative looks with these silvers. Okay, I think that it needs something on the inner corner, but this doesn't really have like an inner corner shade or like a lighter shade. Go in with the highlight that I used on my cheeks. I don't always do that, but there really is like not a highlight shade that I'm loving in that palette. I feel like it needs a little bit something more to blend into that. I don't even know if I love that. Like it needs to be a little bit of a darker base, but I'm gonna leave it. It's fine. And then again, I'm gonna use the same two mattes, these two, on the lower lash line to just quickly connect it. All right, so after doing the lower lash line, I just went and added liner and mascara. So here are the finished looks. For look number one, I just added a nude liner in the waterline and then a brown liner I just really closely did on my upper lash line, so pretty soft. Look number two is a lot more dramatic. I decided to go with a wing, still did a nude in the waterline, but I felt like the silver really needed a little bit something more dramatic, and I'm trying to practice my wings here. I don't think it turned out too bad, but I only had to do one. I didn't have to make it match on the other. So these are the first two looks with the First Gal on Jupiter palette. I think that they give completely opposite just vibes. So I'm gonna now take this off and we're gonna get started with look number three. All right, look number 3. I kind of want to use the shades that I haven't really used yet. So this is the only matte that I haven't used. I'll make sure to use this one. And I've used all these shimmers on this bottom row. So I'm thinking we'll do something a little bit more neutral and use this brown and this kind of brown shimmer here. So that way I've used everything in the palette other than this shimmer. So that's what we're gonna do, and let's just get started. It was a pain in the ass to take these shimmers off, I will tell you that. So you'll have to do a little bit of extra scrubbing when going in to remove your eye makeup, but it's worth it, I think, for the just impact that the shimmers give. So I wasn't too upset. Not that many people are taking off their eye makeup and putting new makeup on. So that's just like an end of the day problem. And I'm just going in with Sputnik Stardust first as a transition shade. If I didn't say for my first 2 looks, I do use my Nars Soft Matte Concealer as primer, and I set that down with powder. I think I forgot to say that. Now taking the warmest brown and putting that in the outer corner. That shade's called Celestial Trek. It's the only matte that I haven't used. And it doesn't pull so warm on the eye, but it definitely is just the warmest in the palette. I'm just gonna add just a tiny bit, and this is the same brush I used for the crease because I'm lazy. Now to go in with the shimmers, and I'm not gonna use a glitter primer just to see how it performs now that I've done the first 2 looks. So I'm starting in with Hidden Heroines, and I'm putting that kind of on the outer corner. If I was using a brush, I probably would still use a primer, but my finger kind of helps to really just stick this down. And I'm not getting any fallout, so that's good. And then I'm gonna go into Meteoric Moment. This one's a little bit more textured, flaky, so this will be a little bit more iffy. But I'm really gonna just try to press instead of swipe. That shimmer, this is my favorite shimmer in the palette. Yep, just decided. Just a really nice, neutral, not too cool brown, but so impactful. Wow, that's pretty. I did get a teeny tiny bit of fallout right here, like in that corner. Not terrible, but using this palette in the future, I probably just would use a glitter primer. Good to know, like we tested it out, but I'm just gonna go in with those mattes just like I've done previously. Put them on the lower lash line. Connect it, that darker brown. Just like that. And then I probably will just add a brown liner like I did for look number 1, add mascara, and show you the final looks here. Look number 3 is done. Like I mentioned, I just added a little bit of brown liner to the top, nude in the waterline, because I really did not want to take away from this shimmer. It is so beautiful. I can't get over it. I know it's just a brown, but it is one of the most beautiful brown shimmers I've ever put on my eyes. But now that I've done all 3 looks, I'm gonna zoom you out just a little bit and talk about my thoughts on this palette. I do want to just compare it to some of my other GlossGods palettes, tell you if I think the formula is the same. So let's just get started. Let's do the comparisons before I talk about my thoughts. So first off, these were the ones that came out in 2022. I had the New Neutral Vintage Glam and Smoke and Mirrors. I believe these two you can still get, but the Smoke and Mirrors was exclusive for holiday. So in my opinion, here's the Jupiter palette. I think that it's kind of a very light baby between the Smoke and Mirrors, which is this one. You can kind of see a little bit, I flipped it so it's a little bit easier to see. You can kind of see some similarities just in the coolness, but then the main contributor is the new neutrals. And I think this is where everyone was just thinking like this was a really cool tone palette because of the new neutrals. Definitely leans a lot warmer. So I think it's just a happy medium. You have the neutralness of the new neutrals, and then you have the coolness of the Smoke and Mirrors minus kind of the pinks. Now I will say, like, just an observation between the first gal on Jupiter and the new neutrals is there's more textures to the shimmers in the new neutrals and just that 2022 holiday collection overall. And that's one of the things I appreciated about GlossGods so much. Like, you can even just see in the pan, like, you have this really textured multi-chrome here. Like, you have a lot of duochromes. Here, the shimmers work great. They're very smooth, but you don't have as many special effect shimmers, I think is kind of what they call them. You have this duochrome here, this holographic one, then Meteoric Moment. This was a little bit more texture. This was my favorite shade in the palette. But other than that, like these three, this one here, were just very smooth, traditional shimmers, but very, very pigmented. Now, just for comparison purposes, here's the Vintage Glam. In case you were wondering, this was my favorite of the three palettes that I reviewed in 2022. But you also just have like those more flaky textures, which just give an extra dimension on the eye. Now, like I said, they came out with 4 palettes for holiday time. 2 of them were re-releases, and then 2 of them were brand new. Jupiter was one of the brand new ones, and then I believe that First Gal on Mars was one of the re-releases. And just so I can show you what this looks like I said, I'll probably, I think, be doing a short on this because all 12 shades are special effects. It's called a special effects eyeshadow palette. So that's what I think I'll be doing. But here's what it looks like. And then they came out with a blue version of this, which is similar, just all blues. And then the other one with mattes and shimmers was a lot more warm toned. I think it was called Venus, so very fiery, etc. But that's why I picked up these two. The blue one does slightly interest me only because I love this formula so much. But I have to remember, like, just because I love the formula doesn't mean I need every palette from the brand. So I'm gonna hold off on that. They are also, just last side note, it seems like revamping their site. I've been getting a lot of emails from them. They're doing like a goodbye sale and getting rid of a lot of palettes. Actually, 2 of the palettes that were on my list to purchase are going away. They're being discontinued, and they had already sold out when I saw the email. So that was a little disappointing, but it seems like they have like new things in the pipeline, and I'm really excited to see that. But now, finally, let's go over my thoughts on this palette. I am very, very happy with this. You know, the new neutrals, I'm a neutral lover, and as you can see, like, I definitely lean more on the neutral cool, and this was a little bit warm. So this really fills the gap for me in terms of just neutrals. I do, you know, for me and like my perfect palette, I don't necessarily need these 2 silvers. I'm fine with the holographic because it's a holographic, but I would have liked to see maybe something else there. And then these 2 mattes just are too similar. That's what I would change if this was my palette. But I will say that all the shades that I tried, which was every shade other than the holographic, performed beautifully. The mattes are just so perfect. I do love that they just have some staple mattes and you can really just focus in on the shimmers. This shimmer here, I'll say it again, is my favorite. It's just so beautiful on the eyes. This palette is really just perfect for someone who really, really loves their neutrals, loves their everyday look, but wants to dip their toes into indie, wants to really take it up a notch and not have those mainstream shimmers like an Anastasia Beverly Hills shimmer. They want something with a little bit more impact. This would be the perfect palette for you. So I have no complaints whatsoever. I would love to know if you picked up this palette. I think that I'll get a lot of use out of it in the future, which is really like my number one thing. Like, am I going to pick this up? Like, maybe it has a great formula, but if I'm not going to reach for it, it's still going to go to waste in my collection. And I don't think this will go to waste. Even this like warmer brown shade doesn't show up so warm on my eye. So I did appreciate that. And this duochrome here is super pretty. I could see that really being really pretty all over the lid as like a one shimmer look as well. So very happy. Would love to hear your thoughts if you plan on picking this up, if you've tried GlossGods in the formula, because if you tried this collection, you know, I think that this collection put them a little bit more on the map, because before that I had kind of heard about them. I had kind of wanted their palettes, but this is what pushed me over the edge, and I don't think that I'm alone in thinking that. So let me know all your thoughts down below and what you want me to do with this palette, because I really struggled, and that's why it took me so long to even do this video on how to incorporate both of these in one video. And I just decided, like, it's time to film this video, just do it with this one, and we can deal with this palette later. But I definitely want to get this on my eyes, try it out, because I haven't even swatched it yet. I'm very excited. Other than that, this is where I'm gonna leave you all. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.